when Sir Alex retired, it was me who pushed the button on the press release going live.
Wow.
So, yeah, which was that was another surreal moment. It really was. It was bittersweet.
Hey, how are you? And welcome back to Outside the Box. Now, this is the brand new podcast all about women in sport. It's Becky Ives back with you, and we're back with my next guest to hear stories, offer you help and advice if you're thinking of wanting to get into working in sport. She's going to be competing for the top spot in our leaderboard, so we're going to get involved with some games and just get a really good insight into her job within sport, which I think is a totally different angle to any other guest that we've had so far on this series. So I'm super excited to get into this. Let's hear from her. She actually works for one of the biggest football clubs in the entire world. She is the senior content manager at Manchester United Football Club. Gemma Thompson is here. Gemma, yes.
Hello. And can I just add that I work for the biggest football club in the world, not one of.
Well,
the biggest.
You are absolutely. Do you know what? We're not going to sit on the fence here. You are correct. It is the biggest football club in the world. Are you proud of that fact? Is it still like, wow, I actually work for Manchester United?
Yeah, it's absolutely. It was my dream really from about 10 years old to be a sports journalist for United. And yeah, I'm very lucky that I've been able to sort of live that dream. But it's about showing that anything is possible. I didn't know anyone in football. I didn't know anyone in media. I just had a desire, a passion and a determination that I was going to find a way to be at United somehow. I'm extremely privileged and honoured to work for the place I do.
And not only that, you are incredibly good at your job. Like, I honestly, Gemma, you are phenomenal at what you do. So I can't wait to hear
Thank you.
from you about it. But normally, I mean, you're a content creator, so to speak, and you're the person that is normally creating the content. But how do you feel about now it's been flipped around and you are the content for this podcast?
It's weird.
Do you feel it's the wrong side? Are you a bit like, oh?
I feel like I'm always meant to be you asking the questions. Yeah, I mean, I love what you do. I love to interview people. I love to speak to people. I find it fascinating to hear, anybody's story, no matter what your role is at a football club or wherever. It's a fascinating job. I get to travel the world with the team I love. And as my friends say to me when I'm having a bad day and I'm whatever. And they're like, Gemma, you get paid to watch football matches. So I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Exactly. So it snaps you back out of it fairly quickly, doesn't it? I know, dream job status here. Yeah. But look, senior content manager, just give us a snapshot. What exactly does that involve?
I initially started out simply as a sports journalist for the club. And then my role has evolved over, I've been there 17 years now.
Wow.
So sort of full time. I went in there initially on work experience when I was 15. Really my role now is I'm the link between the media department for United and the press office. So I organise, working closely with our press office, the access that we have to the first team players. So when we're doing interviews, when we're doing shoots with them, you can have crazy weeks. Sometimes it's difficult when results aren't going well. Not all the players want to talk, and we've still got to do a job on that side of it. And it is challenging, but it's fantastic. I work with a brilliant group of people. I spend a couple of days a week at the training ground. I've got a good relationship with the players. I think that is a massive part of it. I would say the big part of my role is relationships, even if it's a tricky situation in terms of there's loads of matches, how are we going to fit in interviews? We find a way to do it. We help each other out. And then kind of the other side of my job is I still do bits and pieces of writing, cover the matches as we would. And then I look after whenever we get sort of famous fans coming to the stadium or coming to see us on tour. I look after that side of it. I've got good relationships with a lot of our sort of well-known sort of famous fans from Game of Thrones and, people like Rachel Riley.
I saw Julia Roberts turned up on a pre-season tour when you were in LA a couple of years ago.
That was incredible. She is the most lovely lady you could meet. It was a real honour to have her. And she was absolutely buzzing. She was, it's really interesting to see famous people really kind of nervous around footballers and players. We were like, oh my God, it's Julia Roberts.
There are so many parts to your job.
Yeah, there are. And, we're still involved. I'll be involved in when we sign players. I've been looking to be involved in lots of big shoots we've done. We did a big one with James Corden, the Late Late Show on tour, which the biggest shoot I've ever done. It nearly finished me off because it was so full on. I think I slept for 3 days, but it was fantastic. It really was. When Sir Alex retired, it was me who pushed the button on the press release going live.
Wow.
So, yeah, which was that was another surreal moment. It really was. It was bittersweet because, you know, you were kind of excited. The adrenaline was running for being involved in, you know, one of the biggest stories ever in football. But I was absolutely devastated that he was leaving,
Yeah,
you know,
of
from
course.
retiring. We've got a brilliant strategy at the club with the way we do signings when the players come in, the photo shoots we do. Got a really, really good team who do that. And that's always a real buzz as well. And, you know, you're excited to see a new player coming in. And
you've just got to be, adaptable and just prepared to sort of lend yourself across any situation. That turns up, I presume.
Completely, because no day is the same. And some days you walk into work and literally by the end of the day, you would not have expected what's happened in that day to have happened.
Yeah, you couldn't have predicted it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the best thing about it. And, you know, on the days when we do have big news stories breaking or, you know, there's always such a microscope on our club, it's exciting to be involved. And again, I go back to that word. You feel privileged to be there and very lucky.
Yeah, so this is amazing, all the stuff that you're doing now that you've just touched on. But let's just go back to when you were young. You said it was your absolute dream to work at Manchester United. I presume they were your team from when you were young. Were you a sporty person yourself?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to do something in sport, no question. What I would have loved to have done, I played my 3 sports really was I played football, tennis and golf. I'd love to have done tennis or golf professionally. I got to a decent level. I played for the county in Cheshire where I live, and just anything with sport. I was in all the, you know, played netball, hockey, everything at school.
Yep.
I loved playing football. I always used to make my gran play football. Like she used to drive her mad to play it in the house. But then I thought, well, if I'm not going to be able to play it professionally, I wanted to write about it. I always loved sort of English and things, and I just wanted to do something in sport. And then we had some family friends who took me to my first match, and oh God, I mean, you know, Becky, yourself, when you first walk into Old Trafford, it blows your mind.
Oh, Old Trafford was the first stadium I went to as a child.
Yeah.
And I was overwhelmed. It blew me away.
Yeah,
literally. The atmosphere of a football ground is amazing.
Definitely. And I still try to hold on to that every time I go inside the stadium, you know, and I'm in the stadium every day. I used to get the Manchester United magazine every month, and they had an interview with a journalist who used to work for The Sun. It was just a feature on what it's like to report on United, and it just said, could you do better? And it was write a match report of your choice in 250 words. And I thought, I'm going to have a go at that.
You thought, I can do better.
Yeah, I thought I'm going to have a go at that. So
I can do this. Yeah.
So I wrote it. My hero, and he always will be my hero, is Eric Cantona. The irony now is I'm actually become quite good friends with him and his family and his son. Very, very random. Come back to that. But I wrote it about, my match report was when he came back from his ban after his kung fu kick. So when we played Liverpool. So I wrote this handwritten, faxed it in.
Faxed it? Wow. We are back in the day, faxing.
Yeah, proper back in the day. Yeah, sent it in, and then I didn't hear anything. You know, there was nothing in the magazine for a few months about it. And I think after a few months later, my mum, who is a whiz on the phone, I think she'd called up United and somehow managed to organise for me to go in, I think for 3 days of work experience. I think this was October 96 it was. And I rang up the week before just to confirm it all. And I just said, by the way, whatever happened with that match report competition? And they said, well, actually, you've won it. So I was like, oh, wow, God, amazing. So I went in the following week and I sort of had that under my belt a little bit. And they gave me little bits of writing to do. And I was very lucky that I had the 3 people that worked on it, Rachel, Emma and Adam. Adam, who I still work with now, he's the editor of manunited.com. They really took me under their wing, Emma particularly. And I've never forgotten that because they gave me confidence, and I just loved every second of being at the stadium, like in the offices. And I'd always had a joke. There used to be 2 old men who ran the cliff, Harold and Frank. And I'd always said to them, one day I'm going to get into that building. I'd always talk to them stood at the barriers. And then I remember that day when I went down with Emma. I think we were getting some stuff signed for competitions and she was doing an interview. And I went along and I saw them and I was like, told you I'd get in here one day.
So how did you then manage to sort of say, hey, look, I'm really good. Don't let go of me. How did you turn this into a job?
I've just basically never left. Just stood outside the stadium every day saying, let me in. Every weekend, whatever match United had played, I wrote a match report and I faxed it in on the Sunday night. And I just said, I wrote this on the game. If you want to use it in the magazine. And quite often they'd be like, oh, God, you know what? We haven't, no one's written that report. Yeah, we'll use it. And they'd maybe shorten it down. I'd maybe written 300 words and they used 70 word snippet. And I was like, wow, it's printed. It's in the magazine. It was amazing. And I just kept in touch with them. I think that's the way I've always been brought up as well, is that when people help you, when people are nice to you, you thank them, you keep in touch with them, and you see what you can do for them as well. And I was very grateful for the opportunity that the guys at the magazine gave me. And I just said, look, I'm on half term next week, or I'm on Christmas holidays. Could I come in for a couple of days? And they were like, yeah, actually, you could come and help us with this. I didn't get paid or anything. I think they paid my expenses in, but didn't care. I had the opportunity to be involved. And
you do these things sometimes, don't you? Just because you love it and you want to be involved. And if you don't, somebody else will.
Absolutely. And I felt like I was learning so much, and I just loved meeting all the people at METV around Old Trafford. And I was really lucky, actually. They probably gave me things that they shouldn't have given me to do. I was producing shows, I think, after about 3 weeks. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'd never worked in TV in my life. But
you talk about career progression.
Well, it was one of those. I think if you've got a common sense and you know your subject, I was also very lucky that I'd got a contact. This was the thing. Every time I met someone in entertainment or football, I kept in touch with them. Even if there was nothing really to say, I'd send them a little email or give them a quick call. And a guy I knew had started working for a national sports newspaper called Sport First. So it was around sort of towards the late 90s, early 2000s. And he said to me, look, we want someone to cover, the football up north. I was like, yeah, I'm your person. And basically, whilst I was at university, I was freelancing for them. I was getting to go to Sir Alex's weekly press conference every week. I was 18. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I was the only girl, always the only girl. I went in with the Sundays because it was a Sunday paper. You had all these established Sunday journalists who were a bit like, who's this coming in type thing. And I was very aware of the fact that I was like, hi, I'm Gemma. I'm working for Sport First. Maybe you could let me know how all this works. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. And they've become like some of my really good friends, because I think I didn't go bulldozing in. I've seen people come in and do this. And, good for them. That's their way of doing stuff. I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to know how the proper way was to behave, how things worked. I think Sir Alex appreciated that as well. I'd ask a question every now and again. I was really nervous but excited. I was just buzzing to be there.
You're just hoping you don't offend anybody, don't you, with your first question when you ask? You just think, oh no, please don't, please. But I can imagine 18 years old asking your first question to Sir Alex Ferguson, being
amazing.
The only female in the room. The amount of strength of character, though, you must have to be able to handle that is immense. Were you aware, like when you say you were aware that you were the only female in there, how did you deal with that?
I've just felt privileged, and I was buzzing more than anything. It didn't frighten me. It didn't make me feel nervous, or I just thought I'm very lucky, and don't miss your opportunity. And it's funny because I think then working with Sir Alex for 10 years after that, I always go back to what he said, and a lot of the players will say this. He always used to say before matches, just go out there, express yourself and enjoy yourself. And I think that's what I always tended to do in my work as well. Just show what you can do. Just show you know your stuff, that you're passionate about United. You're not there to cause any problems. You're privileged to be there. You want to see your team do well, and you're interested in asking a question and hearing what the answer is. So yeah, I think that's the way I've always looked at it. That just enjoy every opportunity you get. And I never forget. Actually, I actually interviewed Sir Alex. My first ever one-to-one I did with him was October 99. The day before, we'd lost 5-0 at Chelsea. I was doing my questions that night thinking, oh no, this is a nightmare. I never forget we had a power cut at my house as well. So my computer went off. Everything that could have gone wrong could go wrong. And I was interviewing him at 8 o'clock the next morning in his office at the Cliff. I think I was awake about 5 a.m. and could not have been any nicer. And I think he knew. I think those kind of people know how to set people at ease. And he didn't have to do that, but he did. And he actually brought up the 5-0 defeat before I did.
The elephant in the room. He was like, let's just get it out of the way.
You deal with everybody in the way you deal with a player, you deal with the manager. You speak to the groundsman the same way you speak